Kingdom family, what's up? Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to be with you all today back in our normal format. I know you were with me at Esalen just for the last couple of weeks, so it feels really good back to be kind of in our home format where I can see all of you. Hello, Susan and Elka and Alonzo, Barbie, Kalani, Wendy, Elka, Aveline, Mary Teresa, everybody. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you today. And I am coming in from a very special place today. It's called the Holbrook Hotel, and they're letting us use this beautiful room right now to do this interview. I'm in Grass Valley, and this hotel is super old. It was in 1850 that this hotel was founded. It's been running since 1850. So check that out. And here we are in this room, all coming together to celebrate and to create this web of connection all over the world, from Grass Valley all the way to where you all are in Europe, Australia, oh my God, all over the world. So I'm so grateful to be with you all today, and I have a very special guest today. But before we jump into our session, I have to run us through our values. And before we jump into the values and our belief statements, I just want, if this is your first time coming into the kingdom, I just want you to type in the words "first time" into the chat box, and you'll see our entire kingdom family, our community, will welcome you here with open arms. And so here at the kingdom, we believe that all beliefs are welcome here. We believe that all biologies are welcome here. We believe in the power of music and art to open our hearts and open our minds. And we believe that wisdom can come from so many places. And so sometimes we'll use spiritual text or spiritual traditions to kind of guide us into these big lessons and teachings. And sometimes we'll use science and things that are not spiritual at all to really ground us into the underlining message to help us change and transform our lives into the best possible versions of self that we can be. And here at the kingdom, we don't just honor or tolerate each other's differences, but we know that we're stronger because of them, and we rise together. And so, hello, Sean, your first time at the kingdom. Hello, Tim from Hawaii. Hello, Wanda from Texas. Hello, Kate from London in the UK. And Sean, welcome to your first kingdom session. We're in for a very powerful session today. Hello, Raylene, and aloha. Oh, I just love seeing all of you here. So the way every single one of these sessions works, and Sean, I'm really saying this for you since this is your first time, is we begin with some sort of art. So sometimes it's a poem or a song, and then I dive into a little prayer that is just channeled through as a prayer. And then at the end of our prayer, I give you about 60 seconds of silence to welcome in your own personal prayers. You can do the Our Father, your own personal spiritual prayer, whatever it might be, or just set an intention for your practice. And I keep having this vision that one day we'll be together in person and having all of our prayers just said out loud in all the different languages at the same time. It'll be really beautiful. And then we jump into our teaching. Today we'll be with a special guest, a special practice, and a golden nugget and an action to take into your life. And one of the reasons I started the kingdom was I always, loved church as a kid, loved the inspiration that came from it, but always felt that I could be so inspired, and then you walk out of the door and it's like it all evaporates, right? And so what are the actions that we need to take to bring these teachings into our lives in a meaningful way? And that's what we really look at the kingdom, and have been now for 56 weeks. So we're 56 weeks in, over a year, rising together, rising strong. So, kingdom family, I think it's time to dive into our prayer. So just place your hands over your heart, one over the other. Take a full deep breath in and a breath out, and just rest your awareness in the flow of your breath. God, Spirit, Universe, all that is, all that ever has been, and all that ever will be, by every name that you may go by, past, present, and future. We ask that you come into this community right now and grant us with focus and attention, with openness and ease, so that each of us may hear the exact message that we're meant to hear today. Please guide my voice and thoughts and my special guest's voice and thoughts, so that we may hear the whispers that we were not even planning to say, to give the exact message that was meant to be given today to each and every one of you listening, whether it's through the recording, the podcast, or here live. May each of us remember to be grateful for all the challenges that we've gone through in our life, because each of these challenges has made us stronger, more resilient, and helped us learn lessons to guide us toward our greatest becoming. On this day, may we remember our power, our genius, our greatness, and may we be guided to connect into that greatest version of ourselves that is always waiting to be unlocked within. This is your moment now to welcome in your own personal prayer. God, Spirit, Universe, all that is, all that ever has been, and all that ever will be, we thank you. May every word spoken today in the chat box and beyond be used for the benefit of all. So it is. Ashe, Aho, Salam, Amen, Shalom, Satnam, Awen, Om. Thank you. All right, Kingdom family, here we are together again. I mean, I know you guys haven't been missing, but I missed you all because I couldn't see you all in the chat box when I was at Esalen teaching and we went live. And today I have a really special lesson for you. And it's something that I've actually been using in my life for quite some time, but I didn't understand the science behind it and how powerful it actually was until I met the person that I'm going to be introducing you to very soon. And today's session is on the power of your right brain. And I'm going to describe what that means in a moment, but what this is really about is unlocking your inner genius and how to unlock your inner genius. And this part of our brain that is actually right there, present for us all the time when we're ready to call on it and say yes. And my special guest today is someone who's very dear to me in my life. He is an author, speaker, and ideation facilitator who is also a New York Times best-selling author of his book, Thought Revolution, and his name is Bill Donius. And Bill has become a good friend of mine and also a mentor and friend, and has actually guided me through some massive questions in my life, including 40 Days to Transformation, what to do with these kind of things, how to expand the kingdom, what to do with my music. Like all of this over the last year or so, I've been digging into personally with Bill to help me understand how to unlock my inner genius, how to step past some of the blocks that were there for me. Because each of us, as we continue to grow on our path, we're going to have blocks, right? We're going to have all these different things that come up as we step past the thresholds or the glass ceilings that we've placed upon ourselves based upon our conditioning and who we are. And this method that I've learned and that I've gotten to dig in a lot more deeply with Bill has really changed the trajectory of my life. And I'm so excited to bring this method and this technique in with you. So from the Kingdom family, throw it up in the chat box for Bill Donius. Come on over, Bill. Welcome to the Kingdom.
Slide on in.
Slide on in. Bill's here with me in person. So slide on in, Bill. And here we are. Everybody say hello to Bill. Yes. Okay, everybody's welcoming you. It'll come in. There's a little delay here, so don't worry about what's happening there. So, Bill, very excited to have you on the Kingdom. We've been talking about this for a while.
I know, and thank you. This is a privilege and honor. I'm a big fan of yours and the Kingdom, so it's great to be here.
Yes, and Bill's tuned into the Kingdom before, so he knows the family and the community and how everything works. And first thing that I want to talk to you about, because, okay, so I have to tell you all a little story. And I told Bill this, and I think you were surprised when it happened. So Bill and I were talking. We're on the board of Esalen together, which is how we met, which many of you have been to Esalen. And when Bill was telling me about his work and what he does, he was talking to me about this thing that you do to really help understand the difference between the right side of your brain and the left side of your brain, which we'll get into in a moment. And so he shows me this technique, and I was like, wait, I've done this before. And I open up my notebook and show him, but I didn't know anything about the science. And you all know I geek out on science all the time about this kind of stuff. And so Bill starts guiding me into this process, and it unlocked, so much for me in a massive way.
Yeah.
So can you help us just orient everybody who's never heard about this before about why the right side of your brain? What are we doing here today?
Yeah, well, this work builds on the initial work that Dr. Roger Sperry did.
Okay.
And beginning in 1931, actually, and then in 1981, he won a Nobel Prize for his discovery that the left side of the brain is not just separate from the right, but it's independent from the right. So it makes it possible to get two different answers basically to the same question, depending on which side of the brain you're sort of activating.
Yeah.
And scientists know that we use all of our brain all of the time, and that it's connected by the limbic system and the corpus callosum. However, it is nevertheless based on the research that they did with patients that had epilepsy in the 50s. They were actually cutting the corpus callosum, and through that work, they discovered that you could activate the right side specifically.
And the corpus callosum is what?
It's the little thing that connects the
two sides of the brain.
But there's a lot of debate in the scientific community since then, since 1981, if how this works, why it works, if it works. So I always tell people, just judge for yourself. It also worked for me. I began this in therapy 23 years ago, and so I think they'll have a chance to discover, right?
Yeah, you'll be able to experience it yourself today. I'm so excited. And I just want to, I'm opening up into Bill's book, and everybody should get Bill's book, Thought Revolution, New York Times bestselling book, that is called Thought Revolution, How to Unlock Your Inner Genius, which is really what we're doing today. And I love holding the pencil here at the bottom, which is just amazing. And so there's this part that I earmarked for us, for all of you, on page 16 of his book that really describes the difference between what the right side of the brain is responsible for and looks at, and what the left side of the brain is responsible for and really looks at. Do you mind if I read through the list for a second? Okay. So feel free to add anything in here because I'm going from the book. So the left side of the brain, okay, following left side, is ordering, goal-oriented, time-based, speech, writing, reading, logic, math, reasoning, analysis, rational thought, sequencing, categorizing, and linear thought.
So 92% of us are right-handed, which is controlled by the left side of the brain. So when you think of those things, that's what puts food on the table, gas in the car, keeps us in the job, probably keeps us in the comfort zone too.
Yeah.
But it's all those kind of things, right?
Yeah, and so the left side of the brain, it's really interesting when we look at it, it's what we've been trained to use most of the time in our lives, in school, and in all these ways. And then the right side of the brain, just listen to the difference in the energy of these words. Wholeness, timelessness, in the moment feeling, tone, expression, music, artistry, rhythm, creativity, emotion, spatial arrangement, body connection, visual assessments, dreaming, intuition, problem solving, and spirituality.
So that's a whole different kettle of fish, as they say, right?
Yeah.
So
and this is our favorite kettle of fich.
Yeah. So it's very hard for most of us to go there to get that. Sometimes it's a dream. It's driving, with down a country road with music playing, maybe, or it's in the shower. We have these insights, these thoughts, but it's really hard to get those kind of nuggets on demand.
Yeah.
And that's what this work is. The reason I found it valuable when I learned a version of this years ago in therapy is that it's great to be able to get those things like immediately on demand when you need them.
As soon as you need them. And your technique is really great for that. Now you have this beautiful little piece of prose, almost like a poem, that I think is really great to maybe guide us in a way. So I'll just let you jump in with that. So, I'll turn the music on. Hold on, this will be nice. Okay.
We go through life and become the repository of everything we learned along the way. And that becomes the fuel that powers our life towards our prescribed destination. Our soul's journey through this lifetime offers us the opportunity to learn more about why we're here and how we can make the most of the experience. This is not a simple feat, where we need to break through the habits and even madness of our everyday lives to tap into the innate wisdom that each of us is encoded with.
I love that so much. The last sentence. Break through the Where is it?
break through
The habits and even the madness, that's what I was looking for, of our everyday lives to tap into the innate wisdom that each of us is encoded with.
Scientists have the term encultured, cultured, and habits and routines. So we tend to go into that comfort zone and kind of stay there, and which is why I think the term "think outside the box" is the most overused, hyperbolistic term in business, because we say it, but we don't know how to do it. So this is sort of the how-to.
So before we get into the actual practice and the exercise, and for clarity for people, can you describe, because we've kind of hinted at this pencil in the right hand and the left hand and the brain and this, so
Right.
can you clarify for people what the process actually is like?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a combination of thinking and writing exercise. It's actually sometimes people simplify it by saying non-dominant handwriting, which it is. But if it's just non-dominant handwriting, it's just sloppy handwriting.
Right.
So you have to be willing to let go and allow the neural pathway to be activated from the non-dominant hand to the right side of the brain, to allow those thoughts to flow down from right side onto the paper in response to a question.
Yeah, this is amazing. So what we'll end up doing in a little while is I need every single person here right now, wherever you are, go grab a piece of paper. It could be just scratch piece of paper. It could be the back of an envelope. It doesn't have to be anything special, and something to write with, because you can't do this one on your laptop, okay, or on your phone. So you're going to need something to write with and a piece of paper. And what we'll end up doing in a moment is Bill's going to guide us through a process where you get to see the difference between what your right brain is telling you and what your left brain is telling you. And while you're all preparing for that, Bill, why do we shut down that side of our brain?
That's a great question. I don't know. See, I think that from my experience and the work that I've done in these 13 years, during the initial research project of the book and the 200 interviews and the years since, I think that it sort of relates to Maslow's hierarchy, and we want to make sure that base level of our security and food on the table, household needs, are all attended to. And so we're reluctant to do anything that maybe disturbs that. So we don't want to take risks of a new job, a new partner, a new relationship, because we just get comfortable in those habits and routines. So I think we don't want to disturb what's working. Even if it isn't working that well, we still want to just stay in the zone.
Well, you know what you write about in Thought Revolution, and I love this section of talking about, there are risks when we consciously or unconsciously expose who it is that we really are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that happens on the school playground with kids calling each other's names. They call you a sissy or a nerd or a brown noser or whatever it is. And then we get this negative feeling in ourselves when we are showing, again, a little bit of who we really are. And then we want to avoid that, this feedback loop, right? So you talk a little bit about that here in the book. So how does that emotional scar tissue, as you call it, impact us?
Well, what is definitely I've seen loud and clear in my own life, as well as in other lives of people that I've worked with, is that sometimes a single sentence uttered by somebody when we're 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 years old, is much less, in our 20s or different points in life, that can be basically like burned or even scarred into us in a way that hampers us and keeps us from kind of living the more courageous, bolder life we'd want to, because we've been shut down and so we play it more conservatively. We just don't want to go and do things that we know that could be risky or that we've been burned before. So
and this is oftentimes the kind of shadow and conditioning element that ends up running our lives in some way. So my mom is in here in the chat box, and she just said, my mom, which is my grandmother, 86, had a stroke on the left side a few months ago, and the doctors were amazed that she recovered with her speaking and walking within a week. And some people here are talking about Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor's book, which we've heard a
Yes,
lot about
absolutely.
this work. I
Yeah.
don't know if you have anything to
Yeah,
share about that.
I'm a fan of Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor's work, and specifically because she went to that place when she had a stroke that I think it was 7 years. She said she just floated in
Yeah.
what was the right side of her brain, and it was so pleasant that she basically didn't want to come out of that. So. Um, I feel like for most of us, we're not going to have a stroke and we're not going to be in that place. But I feel like this is as close as we can get, because in learning how to activate and go to that right side of the brain, we can experience it. And the proof is in the pudding when we get, as you know, and for me too, when we get answers to difficult questions that we're wrestling with, it is helpful, and it is that inner wisdom, and it's that place that we otherwise can't get to easily.
So, Bill, I've never actually asked you this fully, and so I'm curious. So, when I first got introduced to this work, I was 21. I was going to therapy, couples therapy with my ex, and the therapist had the way that she had us doing it was our dominant hand was our current self, like whatever, and the non-dominant hand, she said, was like our inner child, our child self, and we were writing back and forth between the two. So how does that relate to the way that we're doing this? Because I was doing, for the whole time I did it until I met you, I was only using it for kind of like trauma work, and then I unlocked with you a way to get ideas and have genius come through. And so explain that to me.
And sure. And the initial work by Dr. Roger Sperry through into the 80s begat the book Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, which has been out there since the early 80s, and is a great book if you want to learn how to draw better. And then that's helpful in the art world. And then I studied with Dr. Lucia Capagnoni, who launched the whole inner child movement. Recovery of Your Inner Child was her book that was given to me by my therapist 23 years ago, and was really helpful. And what I learned coming out of that is that there's a big group of people out there who maybe don't want to learn how to draw, or don't have trauma in their lives from childhood, that just want to learn how to be more creative problem solvers, or want to kind of work on a garden variety of issues and problems. And so it was with that thought that in the interviews that my book is sort of in that place where, like, just for the average person who wants to be more creative, better problem solver, break through kind of limiting behaviors that I wrote it for. So, but it builds on the shoulders of all that great work that went on before.
Great. No, this is amazing. And because it was so helpful for me in that way. And I guess even seeing a different sense or a picture of maybe why I was in the circumstances that I was in. And now being able to use it for creativity and idea generation. And I wrote songs. You guided me to writing songs using my non-dominant hand. I was like shocked at what came out. And so I'm excited for all of you to have an experience. And I have an idea. And Bill, this is going to be a surprise to you because I didn't tell you this, but it just came to me. Is I'm going to bring on a couple of our Kingdom guests live on camera.
Great.
And we'll all be able to do this process together.
Great.
And so I'm going to put a link in the chat box, okay? And the link will allow you, if you click on it, to join us live and interact with us. Know that for your privacy, things will be recorded. Everything that you say will go out publicly. I don't imagine that it's going to be anything that you should be super worried about. But I'll only be able to accept 2 people. So it's going to be first come, first serve. And if you're one of these 2 people, before you click the link, make sure you have good Wi-Fi and you're in a silent place, okay? Don't come on here with a whole bunch of background noise, because this is a surprise, okay? And then we're going to go through the exercise together. Now, while we're waiting for people to come in, Bill, I would love for you to share some examples of how this has helped people, because I know you work with massive corporations and companies and CEOs and boards and all this kind of stuff. So what are some ways that this can help people?
I'll share 2. One is my own example, which is, I would say now that my Achilles heel in life then, as up to age 38, was relationships, and I was experiencing success in other parts of my life, but not in relationships. And so I finally went into therapy and started to work on it. And then when my therapist introduced me to this process, it was extremely helpful, and it helped me understand why I was having problems with intimacy, relationships, love, sex, bringing all that together. And so once I learned that, then it felt odd to be taking that same process and applying it to business. At the time, I was the CEO of a bank, and just seemed too bizarre. But I started doing it, and it was really helpful at helping me grow the company. And then in the more recent years on the corporate side, probably the most fascinating example is I worked with Kawasaki years ago at helping them understand why they were losing market share. And they had a 7-year market share decline. They had worked with other consultants. They had done other things. Nothing was kind of working.
Wow.
And so we put these ideation sessions together with dealers, distributors, customers, senior level people from Japan, US, and solved it. So we got to the bottom of it in very short order. And I think like 3 months. And that was only mostly because it took that long just to get the ideation sessions on the calendar and get them booked and do them. But it was a really amazing process. So since then, I've gotten to work with all sorts of cool companies.
Wow, this is amazing. And I see some people coming into the community. So I'm going to welcome up here. And Sean, I know Sean just tried to come in, and Sean, who's brand new to the kingdom, but then dropped out. So Sean, if you're there, you are. So here's Sean. All right, Sean is here, and so is Mary Teresa. So we're welcoming both Sean and Mary Teresa, and I'm going to get Bill back on the, I wonder if we can get one more person. Does one more person want to come in so we could be in a square of 4? It would look a lot better for everybody. So, but before we do that, MT, I would love for you to just say hello to everybody and tell everyone where you're chiming in from.
Hi, I'm Mary Teresa, and I am in Northern California in Mountain View.
Amazing. And Sean, this is your first time at the kingdom?
Yes.
Wow, and you're already on stage. This is amazing.
Woohoo!
Amazing. So where are you coming in from?
Colchester, Connecticut.
Amazing. Wow. And how did you find out about this community?
I actually found out about you. I met you through Stephen Farber, the Extreme Leadership.
Yes. Okay. Amazing. I'm so happy to.
I was the one swaying.
Yep. I remember. In
your session. Yes.
So this is so good. I'm going to call in one other person. If one other person wants to come in, click the link and come join us, because we're going to do an exercise together. And if not, it's okay. The 3 of us will be just fine. So you guys have your paper, right? You 2 have your piece of paper and pen? Yes? We're good? Okay. All right. Everybody else have your paper and pen. All right, Bill, how do you want to start us out here with this? I'll do it with you.
We're going to jump right into the exercise, right?
If that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I think that's the best.
So I'm going to put the camera on you. Okay. And then if one other person joins, it'll look better, but we'll see what happens here. All right.
Okay, so I'm going to give you, I know his followers are like the crack A-team, and they're super smart, and you guys are totally with it. So I'm going to give you the super condensed version. And there's more on my website if you want to watch the whole thing. There's my TEDx talk is on the website at williamdonius.com. But for these purposes, what we're going to do, I'm going to ask you this question, and I just want you to write down an answer to the question with your dominant hand, whichever one you deem
Hold
to
on,
be.
We got one more person coming. All right, this is so much better. Hello, Kathy. Welcome, Kathy. Hi. Where are you coming in from? Seattle. You're a little quiet. I don't know if you're able to turn your volume up, but if not, it's okay. Okay. Yep, Seattle. All right. So hello. All right, we're all here now. So, Bill, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're going to walk us through this one more time.
So what we're going to do, this is the intro exercise from the book that I found in my research. It's a really good way to demonstrate how hemispheric division in your own brain works on a personal level. You can experience it immediately yourself. So what I want you to do with your dominant hand is to answer this question as it applies to you.
Okay, hold on. I'm pausing us. Dominant hand, meaning the hand you always write with.
Yes.
So even if you're left-handed,
your left hand then would be your dominant hand.
So it doesn't matter.
So whatever hand is your primary hand to write with, do things with, pick up that glass of wine,
Cool.
open the door, whatever
And
it
I
is.
want everybody who's watching or listening right now to do this with us as well. All right? So we're all doing this together. Let's go.
So the question is, as it applies to you, the question is, if I were an animal, what animal would I be? What animal would you be? Write down your answer. Okay, that's the easy part, right? And this process also is, I think, a great way of understanding how your conventional thought process works. Because when I asked that question, you're probably thinking, oh, okay, there's a couple choices here. I could be this, I could be that, I could be something else. And so that is your left brain kind of dominant, analytical, linear, rational, kind of working through that answer, and then you come up with an answer, right? So now what we're going to do next is something, as they would say in Monty Python, and now for something completely different, we're going to switch hands and switch brains. So what I want you to do first is just write down your name with your non-dominant hand. You can print it, you can write it, just to prove that it works. And for someone like me, who's old enough to reveal that I went through business school and I didn't know how to type. So I was handwriting out my papers. And so I think part of what's happened in all these decades since is that all of us know how to type, and we're using our less dominant hand or non-dominant hand more often in typing and thinking and writing things and emails and papers. But this is what we're going to do next is very different. So what I want you to do is with that pen in your non-dominant hand, I want you to close your eyes and just reset and suspend any disbeliefs you may have about what you're going to do or not do or how it's going to work, especially the type A's. You're probably thinking, well, what is he doing? Why is this going to happen? But all the noise that comes in all the time, let go of that shit. Can I say that?
You can say shit here.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let go of that shit and just let your brain flatline. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to allow the activation to occur from the non-dominant hand through the neural pathways to the right side of the brain. And everybody's response is a little bit different. Some people hear an answer and they write it down. Some people feel it. Some people are writing down something with their non-dominant hand. They don't even know what they're writing until they finished writing it. So just be mindful of all that. Don't judge it. Just write down whatever comes to mind. And so the question is applying to you. The question is, if I were an animal, what animal would I be? Bam. Write it down. So again, applying to you, if you were an animal, what animal would you be? Bam. May take 2 seconds, it may take 60 seconds. Just stay in that state of flow from the right brain and allow it to flow down from right brain through the neural pathways to your hand and onto the page, whatever you want to write. You can open your eyes to write it. If that makes it easier to see what you've written, just go ahead and do it. I think they're still in process.
No, I think
they're okay. Has everybody got
you all
something?
Get something?
You got it?
Okay, cool.
So before you share what you got, can I give them a little bit about what?
Yeah, please.
Okay, just as a little bit of an overview here, 90% of the people that I've done this work with, which numbers over 30,000 now in the last 13 years, get two different answers depending on which hand they're using. The dominant hand answer, not surprisingly reflecting the qualities of the left brain, is an answer that I found to be, in my hypothesis, is that it's a more aspirational answer. So we've come up with an animal that we would aspire to be or like to be. And then curiously, 80% of us with the dominant hand come up with one of only 4 animals, believe it or not. And the proof will be here with you 3 or 4 as a proxy. So the answers are dog, cat, horse, and bird with the dominant hand. And then something really different happens, and I think where we really get to experience that, wow, like where did that come from? When we switch hands and thereby switch brains, if we allow it, an answer comes forth from the non-dominant hand, courtesy of the right brain, that is often like entirely different. Like it may be like worlds apart, and then we go, well, why did we write that? And so generally we have to go back to the right brain and say why. Like people are oftentimes surprised when they write down snake with their non-dominant hand. They're like, I don't know why I did that. Well, then they'll find out that their approach to certain things is to slither through the grass, get completely prepared, and then strike, at when they're ready. And so it can be either a literal or a metaphorical kind of possibility. So
I want to know what they wrote.
So
or
with
should
that,
we keep
yeah.
going in, or
no,
should we
no. Let's see what they got and what questions they have.
So I'll just tell you all. My first one, it's right here. I don't know if you guys see this. Bird. I wrote bird. Just not even the type of bird. I just wrote bird. What did you get, MT? What does it say? You can unmute yourself.
I wrote bird too.
You wrote bird too. Okay.
Yeah.
What else? What did you get, Sean? Cat.
Cat.
And then what about you, Kathy?
Dolphin.
Dolphin was with your dominant hand. Beautiful. Okay. Aspirational. And then should we see what they got with the non-dominant?
Yes. And so those answers probably weren't, I'm an eagle, by the way. So with my dominant hand. So there are a lot of birds flying around this kingdom show this morning. So, but then with the non-dominant hand, did you all feel the difference in experience it was? It's sort of like, is that even me? Like, where is that coming from? Like, how does this work and why? So did you all have that sense of like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I felt that. And I'm looking at some of the questions here right now. And people in the chat box are writing. And we want to hear what all of you in the chat box got with your dominant and non-dominant hand. So Nadine said, yep, bird, dominant hand, dolphin. We had another dominant hand dolphin, non-dominant tiger. Somebody says, I wrote the same thing with both hands. Jerry said that. What does that mean?
So that's a good question. It can be either two possibilities. One, that this is something new and you're doing it in real time with not a whole lot of background or prep. And maybe you weren't able to let go and fully get into it. And that happens a lot with type A's. It's hard to disengage from something you've already written and get it like why would I write a different answer? I already wrote one that's pretty good. So that's the chatter of that brain going. Or it could be number two, that you really align with that animal sort of on both sides of your brain. You relate. And it makes perfect sense on both sides.
That makes sense. And one other question that I want to get before we hear about all of your non-dominant is somebody said, where was it? Dory, wondering how other left-hand dominant people experience this exercise. So talk to the people who have left-hand dominance for a second.
Yes, that's a great question. First of all, to you lefties out there, congratulations. In my experience, that left-handed people have the gift of having both a macro perspective and a micro perspective at the same time. And you've probably been told this in life. They're like, wow, how do you do all this? Like, you're good at detail, you're good at big picture. So left-handed people have that gift, and some in the scientific community would say, I worked with 11 different psychologists, scientists, researchers in the process of writing the book and doing the research. And the community is somewhat divided, actually, because some would say that the left-handed people have a more of a pipeline to that right side of the brain, and they can do that maybe easier and all the time, and they kind of operate from that right brain perspective. And then others would say, and they're kind of split, that it's the non-dominant hand, regardless of handedness, that is the pathway to the right side of the brain. So, and I tend to think that it's a bit more of the latter, that it's the non-dominant hand and all the experiences that I've had that can even help a left-handed person get some insights that they may not have gotten otherwise. And I've also seen that sometimes it's reversed with left-handed people. They're coming up with a wildly creative, unique, different animal. And this animal is just the tip of the iceberg. There's tons of questions about life that follow. But the non-dominant hand can kind of get there and kind of be, still can the non-dominant hand for a left-handed person. So the right hand ends up being like a much more mundane kind of answer, or then it sort of flips at times.
And we have a lot of lefties here in the kingdom. I'm looking on here, which is exciting. But all of you here live are right-handed, right? Yeah? Okay, cool. So I'm curious, before we go deeper now, because this was just the test drive, what were your non-dominant hand answers, Kathy, Sean, and Mary Teresa? Kathy, you can go first.
Mine is eagle.
Eagle. What do you got, Sean?
Cat.
Cat. Oh, because you had cat
Yes.
both times, right?
So I was consistent, and I think it's because part of it is my brain. The other piece is we've just recently lost our family cat, and he was just an absolute love. So that's on my heart.
Present. Yeah.
And what about you, MT?
Mine was dolphin.
Ah, mine too. Dolphin was
We
my
were the
non-dominant
same,
hand.
bird and then dolphin.
Yeah, we both did bird and dolphin. Look at that.
So you all will get a kick out of this when I do corporate work and ideation sessions. I've learned through the years to break up the breakup sessions by the inner animal identified answer. So I have group people by animals that fly, walk, run fast, swim, and there's this amazing kind of chemistry and synergy that emerges with those groups. And even though they may not, and you're looking at them, you think like, what do all these people have in common? And you can't tell by looking at them, male, female, different ages, different ethnicities. You can't tell until you see them work together. And when I do this work in universities where I have the room to kind of experiment, I'll take somebody out of like the slow moving group and put them in with the fast moving group, and then ask them to come to consensus. And it's the proverbial like throwing the monkey wrench into the process, because it's way harder for them to do.
Yeah, this is so fascinating. Trey just asked a good question that I think I know the answer to. So Trey asked, what's interesting is when I write with my left hand, I feel the energy on the left side of my brain instead of the right. So one of the things that I know you tell me when we've walked through this is like kind of grip the pen, feel the non-dominant side, but most importantly, before I write, connect to the right side of my brain, right? Because that's really where you want it to come from.
Yes, and the difficult thing to do, it's a little bit like riding a bike for the first time, that without the training wheels, and you're like, oh my God, am I going to fall off? How can I balance? How is this possible? In a physics kind of way. So like that, you have to suspend disbelief and trust that by putting the instrument in your non-dominant hand and letting go, and allowing your brain to hear the question and just respond in whatever time frame it takes. It's a different way of thinking, right? Because you may see it, feel it, hear it. So you just want to trust and allow it. Generally, I found that once people have a good initial experience, if they do it the first time and it works for them, then like riding a bike, then you can get on a second time and keep doing this. And so I do a version of this almost every day on some sort of issue, problem with a client, with with friends.
I've been using it all the time since I've gotten to dive into it with you. Okay, so we're gonna take this deeper, y'all, and we're gonna move through the process a little bit more quickly. And when we go through the rest of the questions that Bill's gonna give us, don't worry about writing anything in the chat box until we're all done, because I want you to just kind of stay in the process a little bit, and then we'll talk in the chat box afterwards. So,
okay, so the first question that I want to ask in this next round is, the question is, what characteristics do I share with the animal that I wrote with my non-dominant hand?
Which hand?
Which I call this the inner animal. So let's just go right, in the interest of time, let's go right to the non-dominant hand again. And so clear your head, relax, reset. So when you think of that animal, we're speaking now about the animal you got on the second round that you wrote with your non-dominant hand. So just fill in the blank with that animal when I ask the question. So the question is, reset and squeeze your hand. Keep your hands separate, by the way, that helps. So the question is, what characteristics do I share with that animal? Bam. The one you wrote down with your non-dominant hand, what characteristics do I share with that animal? Whatever comes to mind, it may be a word, a sentence, a paragraph. Just allow it to flow from right brain onto the paper in response to that question.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to get their feedback here, or
I
just
think
move
let's
into
keep
the
moving
next
for
one?
a little bit.
Okay.
And one tip that I want to give you all is that has really helped me is just write when he goes go, just write. Like don't sit and like marinate on it for too long. I don't know if you agree with that, but I know when I sit and marinate on it for too long, I start rationalizing things versus just letting it come through.
Right. Some people get an immediate answer, and some people have to sit with it for a little bit, maybe 5 seconds to 30 seconds. But the point is, you don't want to be
Editing.
actively thinking about it or judging it or saying, why did I do this or not? You just want to act from that state of flow, allow it to go from right brain down and onto the page, and whatever comes up.
All right, let's keep going.
Okay. So now we're going to raise the bar a little bit and take on questions that might be useful in our everyday lives. So one that comes to mind, and Justin and I both came up with questions earlier today for you. So I'll do mine first and then do yours, because his is a two-parter. So the question that I'll ask is applying to you, and then have that be ready in your. Actually, let's do dominant hand first on this one, because this will give you a chance to experience both sides of your brain. So the question to you is, raising the bar, is, why do I keep doing the same things over and over again? Especially if they're things that aren't necessarily working that well for you in life. It's like, but why do I keep doing it over and over? So with your dominant hand first, come up with whatever your best answer is to that question. Okay, so now we're going to do part 2, which is to switch hands, switch brains. So with the pen in your non-dominant hand, let's reset the table here. I'm going to ask you the same question. Reset your brain, let it flatline, no judgment, whatever comes up. So the question is, why do I keep doing the same things over and over again? Bam. And that's especially true if those are things that are areas of your life where it's not necessarily working that well for you, but why do I keep doing it? Like, why am I stuck, essentially? Like, why is that? Bam. It may be a word, a sentence, a paragraph. Justin's going on with a whole paragraph. Stay in that zone, let it flow forth. Sometimes this is an opener question into kind of deeper awareness. So I always think that it's great to allow to practice that beginner's mind and tap into what's available. I think the quote is something like, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few. So in that sort of spirit, and that was from Zen Master Roshi. But what we're thinking here is to just trust in that beginner's mind in something you're learning that's new today, most likely to you. That's also called intuitive writing, non-dominant handwriting, right brain activation. I like to think of it as right brain thinking because it's not just a handwriting; it's more of a thinking process. So I think everybody's got. Is everybody ready to move on by show of thumbs? Okay, great. Okay, so we're taking on Justin's question next. So let's do a dominant hand answer to this question first as well. Dominant hand. So his question is, what area of my life needs attention? What area of my life needs attention? Go ahead and write your answer with your dominant hand. Okay, so now we're going to pivot and take, I call this the bonus round, or kind of tapping into our inner genius, our superpowers, however you think of it. So with the pen in your non-dominant hand, let go of what you just answered. Allow yourself to be in the realm of possibility, in that beginner's mind, in that right brain, whatever's there. So I'll ask the question. You may want to close your eyes, reset your brain. The question is, what area of my life needs attention? Bam. Whatever's there, allow that to flow forth from right side of your brain through the neural pathways, non-dominant hand onto the page. What area of my life needs attention? Bam. Okay, now actually this is your question. I'm sorry.
okay.
This
You're fine.
this
That was
is
a
your
good one. I
this
needed
is
that
your
question.
question.
Yeah.
So let's go right to the non-dominant hand on this one because it's related closely to, and this is actually Justin's question. So the question is and let's go right to the non-dominant hand. What's holding me back? Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the question is reset, and the question is, what's holding me back? Boom. Whatever flows from right brain through the neural pathways, non-dominant hand onto the page in response to that question. What's holding me back? I appreciate all of you jumping in on this. This is like the super fast crash course version. I'm headed to Big Sur this week to lead a whole weekend workshop on this. So we're doing the crash fast course version, but also in the book, if you like this, there are 52 questions that are great for self-awareness. Not that you have to do all of them, just the ones you don't want to is what I use. Those are the ones where we can learn something. But okay, so one last question here, and then we'll see what surfaced for all of you. So the final question here, let's do a dominant hand version of this answer first. And the question is, what's the first step to getting through it? So if you're being held back, what's the first step that you can take to make progress in that area where you're held back? Go ahead and write your answer. I think it's probably a good idea that we're facing this way, because if we were facing the other way, there's a bar in back of us, and that wouldn't necessarily be
Yeah. There's
right
lots of
environment.
drinks over
Yeah,
there.
not the right not the right environment maybe for a Sunday Kingdom program.
Kingdom in the bar.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to switch hands again in one last round here and take on that important question with a kind of a tactical payoff, hopefully. So again, place the pen or writing instrument in your non-dominant hand. let's take a breath, clear your head, no judgment. This has maybe a potentially interesting payoff for you. Is the question is, what's the first step I can take to getting through it? That area that's holding me back, what's the first step I can take to getting through that place? Bam. Write it down.
Ooh. Bonus questions for myself here.
Oh, good. So I've realized I've thrown a lot at you in a short amount of time. So thank you for your willingness to kind of go there and explore this part of your brain. I guess we have time.
We have a little bit of time for sharing.
A little bit
and
of
good luck reading your non-dominant handwriting. Mine looks like chicken scratch. I mean, literally, how do you read that?
Well,
you know what I mean? It's like so wild.
That's mine. 13 years later, it's still not very clear, legible handwriting. So I always say, don't judge the quality of your ideas by the quality of your handwriting. Just and if you also get stuck and you can't read what you've written, it's a real testament to the power of the right side of the brain, because when you put that pen back in your non-dominant hand and you ask your right brain,
what did that say?
Yes, what did I just write? You're more likely to trigger the word or the words than if you're just trying to think it through otherwise, because you really feel that separation and that independence of hemispheres when you're trying to figure out what you wrote and you're like, I just wrote that 2 seconds ago. How come I can't read it? It's because you got it from that other side of the brain, and you can't cross over quickly enough to figure out what it is.
My mom asked, she said, wait, what was the second question again? So we'll ask it to you again, Mom. Bill will say it.
Okay, the second question, the holding back question.
What
areas in my life? First step? What's the first step to getting through it or working through this area where we're
So the question is, what's the first step in working to get you started on working through the area that you're held back? What is your first step?
That's a great question that you came up with, by the way. So,
my right brain did it.
Yeah. Okay, so anybody want to share? And I realize these can be kind of emotionally triggered shares sometimes. So, and as Justin mentioned, this is being recorded, so please don't share anything that you're not comfortable with. So whatever you're willing to share, and
I'll start.
Yes,
and then I'll have a couple of you share.
Oh, good.
And don't feel like you need to share each thing that came up, but I'm curious if there was something that really stuck out for you all. It's interesting because I asked, what's the area that's holding me back? And my dominant hand said my health and well-being, and then my non-dominant hand said music and practice, which you won't be surprised about because we've been working on this. And I was like, okay. And so then when I asked my dominant hand, what's the step that I could take, right? I said practice every day, right? Very linear, like thought, practice every day. My non-dominant hand, and I was like, ooh, said practice playing songs that you like and just learn one new song every week, every other week, every 2 weeks, which is not the way my dominant brain would work. My dominant brain's like, every day, practice, get it done. And my non-dominant hand's like, one new song that you like every 2 weeks, learn how to play it on guitar. That's it.
Thank you for that share, because it is very emblematic of how our brains actually work. And I say brains intentionally. There's a great book also, if you want to read a 700-pager of Two Minds that was written by the successor to Dr. Roger Sperry. And so it's a great example of that we can have these different thoughts. We can hold both. And it's what I find is super valuable about this. It's like, it's not like a best friend or a family member or somebody saying, why don't you do that? And it's like, what do they know? But it turns out that the right side of our brain does know a lot about us, because it's been in our head since birth. So it's watched us, it knows how we operate. And so that counsel that you're getting from that right side of the brain can be super, super valuable. It can really help you in those areas, especially where you're stuck and haven't figured it out any other way. This can really help push things through.
This is amazing. All right, so everybody in the chat box, I want you to type in whatever your ahas were. And then for the three of you here, Kathy, Sean, and MT, we're going to be able to dig in with you a little bit more. And I want you to remember that one of the rules that we have here, and Sean, you wouldn't know this, and Kathy, you may or may not, that we have when we're sharing on the kingdom is a concept that we call land the plane. Land the plane. And so it's, it's just for the sake of keeping time and everybody being able to share, is just, okay, what is it that I actually really want to share versus the whole big chronology of everything. So if you see me do this, it's with great love. It's just saying it's time to land the plane. Okay. So because, well, actually, Sean, because you're new, how about we start with you?
Okay, so what's the first question?
So I'm just curious to know what arose for you inside of that practice, and anything that you learned or saw different.
Were there any insights that, were surprising, interesting, unexpected?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I would say the first thing is emotion. The second thing is, as it started to flow, there was also stopping. So I think that's just my own issues that I need to work through. And then I think, if anything, there were some areas that I really need to gain clarity on. So yeah, I thought it was good.
So consider that. Thank you for sharing, and consider that this is like riding the bike. This is, you're doing this in the last 15 minutes. It's a whole new way of thinking, operating. So be kind to yourself and allow that sort of patience to emerge. And the best way to get better at this is, like, as you were saying, is through practice. And you can eventually get to the place where you're asking questions on both sides of your brain and answering on both sides of your brain, which can really help move things along. It's like basically having your own internal therapist, or that inner genius, as I like to think of it, that can be there as a guide, because this does have spiritual overtones, higher consciousness overtones. So it's that wisdom that can awaken in us what we otherwise might miss. So it's a tool that can really help us. I mean, it's been transformational in my life, and on both the business side and the personal side. So
yeah, I used it last night. I literally, like last night, I'm here in Grass Valley in Nevada City visiting some friends, and last night was Saturday, and they were having this, event outdoors with people. And part of the reason I came here was to go to this event, right? And I got back to my room at night, and I was like, I'm so tired, I want to just take a nap. And I took a nap, and I woke up from the nap to go to the thing, and everything in me was like, go, you came all the way here to go. So I actually did this, and I did. My right hand said, you should go. You never let yourself go out and have any fun. You're always da-da-da. And my left hand said, rest, stay home. And so I stayed, and I stayed in and slept, and it was literally me. I didn't even actually grab a pen. I just did it on my pillow with my hand, and I started writing out on my pillow with my finger. Yeah. So anyways, this is so
the right brain isn't always a party pooper, by the way.
No.
That was the one-off.
Okay.
But I needed to.
Thank you.
Yeah, Nadine, and I'm just curious for you. Curious for you, Sean. Is in the beginning you had the same thing happen on both hands. Did you end up having some different answers on either side, and did you feel any strong difference between the two that you want to share with us?
Sure. When I would answer the questions between the dominant and the non-dominant, I got completely different answers. And I would say that there was certainly emotion that was generated. So as I think about some of these questions in terms of what area needs to be worked on or improved, I don't know if that was the exact question. First thing that came to mind was expansion of community. And then on the opposite side, the first thing that flowed in is family. So to me, one of the things is, okay, I have work to do there and I need to dig into that more. And so to me, that was really enlightening. And then some other things that came in terms of, um, you had a question around fear. I didn't write the questions down, so I'm going off memory here, but you had a question around fear. And on the left side, it was lack of clarity on my path. And so that felt really, on the left side, it was freeing, even though it was triggering a lot of emotions.
It opened up a space. Thank you so much
Sure.
for sharing with us. And
You're
welcome
welcome.
to the kingdom, Sean. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
So good to have you here. And
Thank you.
all right, amazing. And Mary Teresa, I'd love to hear from you. Any insights, any big things that came up for you?
Well, I thought it was interesting that you talked about health and well-being because that came up for me, but it was a left side thing. So in the what area of my life needs attention, I'm a Virgo, so I did write down all the questions because I'm just, I have to. And when I wrote with my right hand, all these things came in of what needs attention. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to take care of that. You better get it together in this area. You better do, and I couldn't even write one down because there were so many from my right brain. And then when I asked with my left, health and well-being came up. And I was like, I'm healthy, I'm well. I'm like, what are you talking about? So my right brain often argues with my left brain, I think.
And this, it's not that I always say I'm agnostic as to where good ideas come from. I just want to get them. So this is an opportunity to reconcile what you're getting from the left side of your brain, your more conventional way of thinking about things. Virgo's rule, by the way, and then what you get from the right, which is can be really different, especially for those of us that are Virgos and very used to order and routine and logic, and we're good organizers, we're good managers, and we think we don't need anybody, but it turns out we can have those blind spots as well. But moreover, I think of it now, it's like, what else can I do in 60 seconds? If I have a big issue or a problem or something I'm working on with a client, it's like, why wouldn't I do this? I can't even go to the bathroom in 60 seconds, so like this is as fast as anything else possible. But it's not just about the speed, it's about the quality of the information we're getting. And it's not that we have to follow it, but it's great to have it as something to consider. And it's not just that we get one question and we're done. This works in a didactic fashion where you ask a question, get an answer, ask another question, get another answer. You just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until you get the aha, that's why that makes sense.
And that was interesting with the follow-up question. I'll just share this one more thing quickly, is that what's the first step to getting through it? So for the health and well-being, my right hand, my left brain said, exercise consistently, go to sleep earlier, eat better. And then when we asked that same question with my left hand, I got be silent and really listen to my body.
Wow.
That's great. Yeah.
So maybe if I'm silent and I really listen to my body, I might get some of those things. My body might say, okay, exercise now, or okay, don't eat that and eat this instead. But it's a gentler approach rather than this like beating myself over the head with the things I'm supposed to do.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Mary Teresa, because it's some people get into the practice of every day asking the question after their meditation in the morning or at the beginning of the day or after their coffee, what do I need to accomplish today? And I call this the to-do list, but it's TWO. So you write down with your dominant hand all the shit we got to do, which we know, but it's nice to have on a list. And then you switch brains and write down the stuff that comes up that may be unexpected from the non-dominant hand, courtesy of the right brain. And that's sometimes an entirely different list.
Yeah.
So then you can just circle the ones you really need to do. And I find that this is really true with a lot of Fortune 50 executives. They're very much in that left side of the brain, all these things here that they're going to have to do. And then with their right brain, they get like, oh, I need to call my mom, or I need to do this for my son, or they just get all these much more emotional, as was said, or other qualities, other things that are kind of beneath the surface, and we just typically run rumshot over. So this is a way to surface those things that are really important. So for you, with being silent, you can say, oh, okay, is today a day for me to be silent or to do something else, and get that direction.
So powerful. Thank you so much, MT, for sharing with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of people will resonate with this. And Kathy, how about you, my dear? And pull that mic a little closer to your face if you can. I don't know if it's possible.
Yeah, what's curious is I don't know which mic it's actually using. Does it sound okay?
It sounds pretty quiet and really far away.
Okay, I have no idea.
That works. If you're talking at that volume, keep talking at that volume and we can hear you.
Okay. So I will say the area that needs attention from my dominant brain would be finances. My right hand, when I wrote with that, revealing the gifts I have, could see just sparkling expansion. So that was very different. And then what's holding me back? My own chains to keep me safe. And my dominant hand said, well, get some chain cutters. And for the first step. And my non-dominant hand said, swim towards the light, which, I don't know. That's not very specific, but that's what I wrote.
That's thank you for offering that up, because it's a great, sets you up for a great next question, which is, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Anytime the right brain gives us something we don't know what it means, we can go back and ask the follow-up question. So swim towards the light, how? What does that mean? And then go back to the non-dominant hand and let that right brain weigh in on that answer and go deeper until you're like, okay, now I know what that means. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I think that's really good, especially because sometimes I feel like the right brain, the non-dominant hand, can give some kind of like very artistically expressed answers that are kind of like, okay, like be silent and listen. Cool. Like, what do I do? Yeah. But you can keep asking. You can keep asking questions. And I'm so glad that you said this in here, Kaylani, because I thought the same thing when he was talking about the to-do list. Is when those of you who are doing the 40-day program and all of that and beyond, when we're doing our daily power actions, you might go to your dominant and non-dominant hand and see what your daily power action might be. Or when you're even writing in the journal and the workbook, you can go between both hands and see what hands it would be and see what comes up. I even just now, just because I was cheating and I know I've been doing this for a little while now, one of the things that was happening is I went and we just had somebody walk in, so I was like, got a little distracted, y'all. So I had asked when it said, oh, well, practice singing songs that you like. I was like, okay, and I knew already that wasn't going to be enough information to take me where I needed to go. So I said, okay, how many songs and how often? I just asked, and it immediately said 1 new song every 2 weeks. Like it was just boop, and I said, okay, thank you.
So yeah. So what's great about that is there's both this like metaphorical answer, like swim towards the light, and then you're like, well, that's kind of vague. It's cool in a way, but what does it mean? And then the right brain can give us that kind of high level, artistic, almost kind of quality answer, but then also give us a really tactical answer. And of course, Justin's been doing this and practicing this now for almost a year.
Yeah, totally.
He's a quick study. I think it's actually 9 months, but at any rate, he has done really well with it. But you'll learn to get the more tactical answers by asking more tactical questions. Like, okay, what does that mean? How do I do it? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And so ideally, you want to develop conversations with both sides of your brain and go back and forth to help you just become more self-aware. I actually think this is, in my version, this is enlightenment. This is like figuring out what our purpose is. That's a great question to ask, which we didn't do today because it has a lot of other implications. But a great one you can take on is, it's in the book, what is the highest and best purpose of my life? So it's like, whoa, let's go there, and then everything else is a subset.
Yeah, and then this is so beautiful, and I've just been so excited to. I've been talking with Bill for months now about having you on the Kingdom, and I'm so excited that we're finally able to do it, because this is something you all know that I love to bring you things that I'm actually working on and the things that I'm actually doing in my life, and so I'm so grateful that the three of you came on to share with us. Thank you so much, Kathy and Sean and Mary Teresa. Everybody, show them some love, and I'm gonna get you guys out of the green room and the screen so we can close out. So you'll want to go back to the main board so you can hear everything. So love, love, love. You'll see the whole community thanking you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And, as we close out today, Bill, I'm just thinking, we always like to end with a little bit of an action that people can take into their lives from this. And I know you've given them this tool to use, but if there was one big step that we could ask people to take as they move forward from the session, what would it be?
I think just to focus on being more mindful about how we live our lives, be more intentional about what we're doing, what we're not doing, what we want to do, what our aspirations are, what we want to achieve, what's our purpose, and just keep nudging at all of those questions every day to be a more, to lead a more intentional life.
Oh, Sean accidentally called back in. Sean, okay, yeah, that was an accident. Okay, so amazing, Bill. Thank you so much. And everybody, this is our perfect moment to do our golden nugget practice, which we do at the end of every single session. You can stay right here next to me, Bill. So our golden nugget, just place your hands over your heart, take a deep full breath in, and a breath out. Just let it all simmer. And if you could think of one main takeaway from today's session, one main takeaway from everything that you learned today, whether it was from your own brain and your right and left side of the brain, or something Bill shared or someone else shared in the chat box, what would that one thing be? Maybe open your eyes and see what your non-dominant hand has to say about that, and what one takeaway from your right brain, non-dominant hand, might have to say about this as well. And let the golden nuggets come, and you all can type your golden nuggets into the chat box. What is my golden nugget? I'm doing a little left hand faux writing on the table here. What came to me was stay well by being your authentic self. Stay well by being your authentic self. And I think that's a really beautiful thing that we see of really weaving these two hemispheres of the brain together. What'd you get, Bill?
I wrote share more online.
Yeah.
And
he's good at it.
I've been reluctant to do so because I mean, this process has been so important to me that I think it's better in person and in workshops and in groups or one-on-ones, but I think it may work online too.
I think it does. Don't you guys think it works online? I do. So, Bill, thank you so much for being with us today. I know if anybody is interested in learning more from you, there are several ways. First of all, your book, which we put the link to there in the chat box, Thought Revolution, How to Unlock Your Inner Genius by Bill Donius, and also, which is a New York Times bestseller, which I get so excited about every time I say it. And also, I know you're teaching 2 workshops at Esalen.
Yes.
Which our whole community knows about Esalen. I don't know if they're sold out.
The first one is August 13th to 15th, this coming weekend, but there's a little space left. And the second workshop, I know that's a long way to go to California for a lot of people. It's August 20th to the 22nd. Esalen.org is the email address, and the workshops are all listed there.
Cool. And if anybody else wants to learn more about you other than going to your website, what's the best?
They can reach out to me directly at bill@williamdonius.com.
Okay, I'm going to type that in for you all. It's bill@williamdonius.com.
Yeah.
Boom. So if you guys reach out directly to Bill, he'll be happy to help you all and guide you. He has some cool resources and tools. Bill, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It was so great.
Grateful.
Love this guy. He's terrific.
We've had so much fun. And Kingdom family, I'm so grateful to have all of you here. We're just going to close out now with our closing blessing. So hands over the heart. Take a deep breath in and out. God, Spirit, Universe, all that is, all that ever has been, all that ever will be, every every name. You may go by past, present, and future. Thank you. Thank you for bringing Bill into our lives so that we may learn to unlock our inner genius. Thank you for showing us what it really means to fully be alive by using both sides of the brain, by not judging one side to be better than the other, but knowing that genius comes when we take the full capacity of who we really are and bring that forward into our lives and into the world. Thank you for bringing this kingdom family together for 56 weeks strong. Thank you for our health, our wealth, our abundance, our authenticity, togetherness, and growing community so that we may be rising and growing. So it is. Ashe, Aho, Salam, Amen, Satnam, Awen.
Thank you, Justin. This was awesome.
Oh, Bill, so good. Thank you, everybody. This is the kingdom. We're signing out. We love you. And we'll meet you right here in this very special place in our next session of the kingdom. Mwah. Bye for now, everybody. We love you.